By the end of the offseason, the Raptors will have up to 18 players on their final roster, but only 9 to 10 of those guys can actually get consistent playtime. So who are those players going to be, and who will be the players that miss out on those rotation spots? Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel that is dedicated to giving you Toronto Raptors content in videos like this and live streams on the channel. Make sure you do smash that like button if you enjoy this video, and make sure you subscribe for more content just like it, because today we are investigating what the rotation is likely going to be for the Toronto Raptors. I've said it in a lot of videos that I've done recently where I feel like this Raptors bench goes pretty deep. Like, in the end, like if AJ Lawson makes the roster and he's the 15th guy on the roster, like that's a guy I can like kind of trust with NBA minutes, and that's like the bottom of the rotation, it seems, for the Raptors. They're like almost seemingly going to be 15 players who I wouldn't mind getting minutes in the NBA, whereas like there's been other years for the Raptors where we go into the season and it's just like, hey, can you play competent NBA basketball? No? Okay, well, we need your position, so you're in rotation. Like, it's been such a scrap to even find enough players to actually fit for the bench to get NBA minutes, but this year it kind of feels like it's going to be extremely competitive to get some of those final spots. Like I said in the intro, the Raps can have up to 18 players on their final roster. They can have 15 players in their main roster. Then they can have an additional 3 players on two-way contracts. Those two-way contracts are already accounted for, and those guys probably not really going to be threatening the rotation. If they were, they wouldn't be on two-way contracts. They would likely be on standard contracts. Then I say up to 18 because they could choose to leave that final roster spot empty for further flexibility for finances and further flexibility for trade, because if they have a roster spot open, they can take 2 players back and give one away in a trade. And there could be some sort of trades that materialize, which we'll touch on over the course of the video. But we're going to investigate basically what I think will be the 9 or 10-man rotation for the Raptors this season. We're going to be pretty quick when it comes to the starters, because the starters, I think, is going to write themselves. I don't see any argument about which players can dethrone any of the players in the current starting 5 for the Raptors. The point guard is going to be Immanuel Quickley. Beyond point guard and center, I honestly wouldn't really worry about positions too much. A lot of positions are interchangeable. There's a lot of, schemes where players will be in different roles. Don't read too much into positions over the course of this video. Basically, we're trying to find the 9 to 10 guys that are going to be playing the most. As it will be listed, I imagine RJ Barrett will be listed as the shooting guard. We'll have Brandon Ingram at the 3, Scotty Barnes at the 4, Jakob Poeltl at the 5. Like, these are the obvious players that are going to start. Like, Brandon Ingram, no debate. Scotty Barnes, no debate, obviously. Jakob Poeltl, no debate. Immanuel Quickley, I've seen people try to create a debate, but really there should be no debate here. The backup point guard right now is Jamal Shead. I like Jamal Shead. He's not challenging Immanuel Quickley for the starting spot. You could move Scotty Barnes to point guard and put somebody else in the starting 5. That's clunky. No, I mean, what are we doing here? Immanuel Quickley, the starting point guard. And the one I've seen the most people try to make a case for is RJ Barrett. Could Grady Dick go into the starting 5 to add on additional shooting? Could Jacoby Walter go into the starting 5 to add additional shooting and maybe additional defense to the team? Interesting theories, cute theories. RJ Barrett, if he's on the team, if he's on the roster, I imagine he will be. I mean, there's a certain possibility he's traded before this video comes out. I don't think so, but it's possible. RJ Barrett is a 20-plus point per game player. He's going to add a lot of scoring punch to the team. We'll see if he's worked enough on his three-point shooting and his defense and all that, but he's going to be a starter out of the gate. I think the starters, pretty simple. These 5 players kind of write themselves. They are going to be in the starting 5. The bench is where we have a little bit more of a discussion that needs to take place. Point guard, I've kind of already pointed it out. It's going to be Jamal Shead. Looked pretty good at Summer League. Seems like he's progressed his game a little bit from his rookie season in the NBA, where he kind of made this role his. He came into the league as a 45th overall pick. David Mitchell was traded for to be essentially the backup point guard for the Raptors, but David Mitchell wasn't fantastic for the Raptors. I know he's been good for the Heat, but he wasn't very good for the Raptors. Jamal Shead was playing quite well and kind of dethroned David Mitchell for that position, so much so that there were quite a few, not quite a few, but there was definitely a few did not play coach's decisions for David Mitchell before he eventually got traded at the deadline to give Jamal Shead this role. Not a lot of competition for the backup point guard role. That spot is his. Now, when it comes to the other spots here in the rotation, this is where, like the wings, it is a log jam of players that will be vying to get play time. So it's complicated to pick guys to get in. I think at this point, not enough players have risen up to take away this backup role. I'll put him at shooting guard for Grady Dick. Obviously, his shooting is going to be pivotal to the Raptors. They lack shooting. They lack spacing. Grady Dick can provide a lot of that. Last season, Grady Dick in a starting role, in a very large role for the team, really did bring in a lot of scoring punch, especially the early stages of the NBA season. Kind of faded away more and more as the season went on, but Grady Dick is an ascending player. Took a really big jump last season. He's in his third year after getting selected 13th overall. Like, we could stand to see another jump coming this season for Grady Dick. He'll have to do it in a backup role. What is going to stop Grady Dick from being in rotation is pretty much enough guys have to outplay him, and his defense would have to be so poor that the Raptors wouldn't be able to use him in these spots. I don't see that happening. Hopefully he is working on his defense. Hopefully it is up to, like, just passable, like just so it's not bad, just so it's not inhibiting what the team is trying to do. That's where I'd like to see Grady Dick get to. Not sure if that will be this season, but I still feel confident he is firmly locked into the rotation. Now it gets dicey. Now it gets complicated. I think those two are pretty comfortably going to be in rotation for the Raptors. Now it's tough. Next up, I'm actually going to go with Jacoby Walter in this spot. If you asked me to make this video before Summer League, I might have said that I might even made a video where Jacoby Walter wasn't in this 9 to 10 man rotation. Summer League kind of changed that. He looks like a much more confident player, and honestly, a much more talented player from what I saw in Summer League. Now, it is Summer League, but like still, you saw the developmental strides that have taken place for Jacoby Walter. He looks like a much more confident three-point shooter, and he looks like a much more confident defender. Every team, especially with guys coming off the bench, needs shooting and needs defense. Jacoby Walter seemingly is going to provide both of these things. And honestly, had a pretty promising rookie season for the Raptors. There were some issues with efficiency for sure, but always seemed to me like an intelligent player who played within himself, who played for the team. And I just think, like, if he's enhanced his three-point game and his defense game, that's going to be important for the Raptors to have on their bench. I'm going to go with him in this position. Now we get to what I have as the power forward. This is where I haven't quite made up my mind, but I will force myself to make up my mind by the end of the video. So naturally, what you would like to see is your first-round pick, your 9th overall pick, Colin Murray-Boyles, take on this backup power forward spot. From Summer League, he showcased himself to be a very talented defender, very intelligent defender, occupies so much space, disrupts passing lanes, good help defender on defense. Could we see maybe even a little bit of small ball 5 out of Colin Murray-Boyles? Perhaps that's something that we can explore in the NBA with him, but this would be the guy you want to see here for his defense and for his development. That's your first-round pick. You want to see get playtime. However, I'm concerned about the offense. Perimeter shooting-wise, like, it's not there. He'll get ignored on defense a little bit. They'll be able to help off him a little bit. Will he be skilled enough as a scorer against bigger, better NBA defenders? Perhaps not. So if that's not the case, I could see the Raptors going with Ochai Agbaji in this position, which is really, playing him above his size to play him at the 4 a little bit. But we saw, like, honestly, quite a bit of that last season. He's played this before for the Raptors. Not the ideal role for him, but there is so many players kind of vying for these spots. The only thing will be is I think Ochai Agbaji is good enough to be in rotation. I just wonder if there's enough space. First of all, I think, like, he's good enough to get in regardless. But the further issue is the Raptors can't really afford him. As of right now, they're over the luxury tax threshold. They don't need to get under that before the season starts. So sometime during the season, they may move a player to do that. The obvious candidate is Ochai Agbaji because he's due an extension at the end of the season that the Raptors can't really afford. So maybe out the gate, it'll be like Colin Murray-Boyles in this spot just to see him. And then maybe they switch to Ochai Agbaji. And then they trade him and they switch back to Colin Murray-Boyles as he gets better. Maybe that's going to be how things go down. That will be my prediction here. So it's going to be a bit of a combination of Agbaji and Murray-Boyles. I think by end of season, Murray-Boyles, let's give the prediction, he'll be firmly in this rotation for the Raptors. At least that's what we hope to see. But I'll make that prediction. I'll make that call here. Which leaves a backup center position. And there's a couple of candidates to take this spot. Colin Castleton's not one of them. I don't know, by the time this video comes out, I wonder if he'll even be on the roster. Maybe they'll still have him for training camp. I don't imagine he'll make the final roster. Anyways, not Colin Castleton. Could be Jonathan Mobo here. I wasn't super impressed by him at Summer League, So I think the Raptors will go for the player they just signed on a 2-year contract, 1+1 deal with a player option in Sandro Mamukelashvili. So had some decent games last season with the Spurs. Overall has been a pretty consistent three-point shooter in his time in the NBA. This just adds a little bit of something different for the Raptors off the bench. Not like traditional center the way, size-wise, but I think that we will see some creative lineups where, even off the bench, murray-boyles and Mamukelashvili as the bigs in those lineups. You can play Colin murray-boyles more as an interior-centric big because that's not Mamukelashvili's strong suit. But on offense, he can provide spacing. He is a three-point shooter that I don't think is going to get ignored by opposition defenses. So I will go for Mamu in this position here. Just bring something different. We could even see lineups in tandem with Poeltl where Mamukelashvili is playing as the 4, Jakob Poeltl is playing as the 5 because he has that spacing. That's something that was pretty important for the Raptors to pick up. We'll see if he is good enough to lock down this rotation spot, but I don't think Jonathan Mobo is knocking on the door of taking it away from him. So I will make the prediction that it is Sandro Mamukelashvili taking this spot. That would be my 10-man rotation. Now, the positions, again, don't worry about them too much. You're not going to have, at least you really shouldn't, Darko, a full benchman lineup where this is going to come to play. I want to see staggered minutes. I want to see bench players integrated into lineups with starters. I don't want to see 4 or more bench players on at one time. I want to maximize maximum 3 bench players on the floor at once. Probably not going to happen because Darko loves to do 4 bench players with Scotty Barnes. We'll see with Brandon Ingram if things change this season. I don't know, but that would be the 10-man rotation. If we were to whittle this down to go to a 9-man rotation, and typically what Darko has done, he has gone for, to start the season, 10-man rotation to just, get a better look, bigger look at 10 players instead of 9. And then as we get more comfortable, we see what we're dealing with, then it kind of goes down to 9. When it does go down to 9, my prediction is Mamukelashvili will have to work to get back in rotation. They'll feel confident with what they have in the other 4 positions there. So what do you think? What would you change? If anything, comment something down below.